My, oh my, what a show. What a horrible game by our Philadelphia 76ers last night. We got Jalen Hurts paying a beautiful tribute to his father. So much to get to today. And Kevin Durant is now a member of the Phoenix Suns. And that trade goes down about an hour, technically, outside the 24-hour frame of Kyrie Irving making his debut as a member of the Dallas Mavericks. So, yeah. I'd say we got a lot to get into today. Oh, also, Nick Sirianni got asked about his boxer shorts. So it's Super Bowl week. I thought we just were done with all the weird questions after media night. Apparently, that's not the case. Excuse me. Now opening night, as it's known. Ladies and gentlemen, last night was supposed to be a beautiful appetizer to the main course of the week. Not just the main course, but like a meal of a lifetime, a meal you remember for years. That was, which is obviously the Super Bowl on Sunday. But last night, Sixers-Celtics was a free appetizer where someone just said, I'll just send them over something nice, something to dine on before the main course and all that stuff. Maybe you know the chef. Maybe you're friends with a waiter or a waitress, and they just decided to give you a free app, okay? Last night, with the Boston Celtics being down 4 starters by the start of the second half, you would think that the 70s, and Jason Tatum having a terrible night. You would think that the Sixers would win that game with having a full roster. That wasn't the case. The Sixers flat out got embarrassed last night by a very much short-handed Boston Celtics team. And I know a lot of people can throw out the true homers and the vast optimists will just think to themselves, Boston shot their lights out. They were incredible. You're not going to have many nights where Blake Griffin's dropping threes the way he was last night. But the bottom line is he was dropping them like he was last night. The entire Celtics team was dropping them the way they were dropping them last night. You got to find a way to adjust. And Doc Rivers, I felt, waited way too long to show his frustration in this game. When you look at the end of that third quarter, Doc Rivers calls timeout twice within about a 2-3 minute span. And both times were after three-point shots were made by the Boston Celtics. And each time Doc Rivers called timeout, he jumps off the bench, calls the timeout, and it's like waving his hand like that in his team, like, what are you doing out there? Like that kind of thing. And I get Doc's point, but what's the adjustment made before it's a huge problem? Like, how many threes was it going to take before you realized Blake Griffin was having himself a good night from three-point land? How many threes? Was it 18? Was it almost the Celtics being done with their threes on the night that he went, maybe I'm going to start calling timeouts? I felt like the fourth quarter, the Sixers were going to, say enough of this. We got the full roster. We're going to close this out. We're going to take care of business. And that didn't happen. And as you're watching this game as a Sixers fan and you're waiting for that moment for the Sixers to take over and you're waiting patiently, you're getting more and more frustrated. And Doc Rivers took to the podium afterwards and just talked about how he hated this team's defense, didn't like the hustle, the whole thing. They didn't play well. The Celtics deserved to win, and the team that deserved to win won. And that's the way it went down. And then I happened to catch this clip from NBC Sports Boston. Last night, I know we could talk about this a lot. When we talk about the Phillies and their turnaround, was it Joe Girardi's fault that they weren't hitting, right? No, of course not. Was it Joe Girardi's fault that they weren't winning at the rate they should have been winning at? No, I mean, you look at the players, obviously. But one thing just remains true with a lot of different franchises over the years is that sometimes you just need a new voice. And when you consider a 21-point blown lead in two of them in a 7-day span, when you consider how they fell apart last night against a very much shorthanded Boston Celtics team, when you consider the fact that they also can't get out of the second round with Doc Rivers as their head coach, yeah, maybe it is time for that new voice. And you know who is putting a big exclamation point on that theory? It was Mr. Three-Pointer himself, Blake Griffin, who after last night's game took to the stand to talk about basically if he felt disrespected or not, being left alone from three-point land all night long. And here is what Blake Griffin had to say.
What were you feeling out there? What were you seeing out there to get you going from three?
Just space. I mean, honestly, when a team leaves you open like that, you just got to try to make him pay. And, shooting open shots all night. So it was nice to see some go through.
James Harden was just talking about how you got, like, they just kind of left you open and like they were just lazy on the defensive end. Do you feel like maybe a little disrespect to just kind of leave you open like that? As a guy who can shoot 3-pointers like that?
I don't really take it as disrespect. It hurt him. That was their game plan. Obviously, Doc makes that game plan. They didn't adjust, which has been sort of a thing. No disrespect, though.
Is Blake Griffin a Sixers fan? Because that's what a lot of Sixers fans have been saying for quite some time. And still there's no adjustment. There's no change. Does Blake Griffin get us? Here's what's so amazing about that. First off, it's just so honest. It completely throws Doc Rivers under the bus. The other thing it does is you got to remember these guys all talk to one another. The guys that they're probably the only people that they're actually honest with, players, is probably other players. They're not doing this to the media. And if they do it to the media, odds are it's the undisclosed sources and all that stuff. Unnamed sources say that James Harden doesn't like Doc Rivers. And that report has already come out. That it's a work in progress was the report from some time ago. It's a work in progress, the relationship between James Harden and Doc Rivers. So Blake Griffin is taking to the microphone last night and feels it's just fine. It's fine. To just go ahead and say probably what he's hearing from other players, probably also what he is noticing as a player himself and only being confirmed by other players that he talks to. Not making the adjustment. Doc makes the adjustments. Doc comes up with the game plan. Oh, that ain't a good look. That ain't a good look for Doc Rivers. Overall, once again, losing 2 games in a 7-day span. We blow a 21-point lead. No bueno. One of those being to the Orlando Magic. No bueno. And then losing to a Boston Celtics team who did not have our really good friend, Al Horford, who did not have Marcus Smart, who did not have Jaylen Brown by the start of the second half, and obviously had Jason Tatum playing a off night, to put it kindly. It was bad. And I noticed also as this game went on, there were a couple of different bounces. One on an N1 situation for two of them involved George Niang, of all people. George Niang didn't get a roll on a layup. George Niang let the ball go right through his legs. The opportunity where the Sixers, where's my mind at? Where the Sixers could have had the opportunity to make it a 1-point game late in that third quarter. It didn't happen. It went through his legs and went out of bounds. There are a number of situations like that. There was an outlet pass. I want to say it was from Maxey, but no, it was from Shake to Tobias Harris. It led him a little too much. If it was Jalen Hurts, we would have said he overthrew him a little bit. But it took Tobias Harris under the basket. He ended up missing the layup. There was a number of things that went wrong in that game. And Joel Embiid started showing his frustration during last night's game where he got teed up, in part, rightfully so. He was fouled on a play and didn't get the call. Still, it ended up being a point in the other direction when he got the technical foul called on him. But it was just overall a bad game. I don't know if they took this team too lightly. I don't know if they looked at the roster that was available last night for Boston and said, "Oh yeah, we got this," and then they did not have it. I don't know what it was, but I will say the number one thing that drove me crazy was, I think, what drove most people crazy. There was zero perimeter defense last night by the Sixers. When you see Blake Griffin go 5 for 8, by the way, that's the big number. 5 for 8 from beyond the arc. Williams goes 4 for 6 from beyond the arc. White goes 3 for 6 from beyond the arc. You have coming off the bench, you got Pritchard 2 for 2, and you got Hauser at 4 for 4. So, yes, they had a night. 19 of 35 from beyond the arc. That's 54%. They shot the Sixers lights out. You compare that in contrast to the 32% the Sixers shot, and there's your difference in the ball game right there. But at some point, don't you think there's going to be a little change in perimeter D? At some point? Don't you think that's going to be the case? No? Not going to happen? I don't think the Sixers make any type of coaching change at this point in the season. The NBA trade deadline's today. I'm not expecting the Sixers to make a huge move. I'm not expecting anybody to come in here. I'm looking for a backup center. We talked about it yesterday with Seamus Clancy. I think what you're looking at here with the Sixers is a Nerlens Noel. I think it is an Andre Drummond. I don't think you're going to be seeing a huge move being made here. I think you're going to get help off the bench. But, man, whoever is going to be coming off the bench, I don't know. Talking about center positions here, they're not really going to be helping you in the perimeter defense. And last night, that's what they needed the most. This has not been a good 2 weeks for Doc Rivers. I saw our friend, I think it was Paul Hudrick actually put it out there on the interweb last night on the old Twitterverse, saying that the Sixers followed the hottest stretch in the NBA with a horrible stretch. One of the most horrible stretches in the NBA to this point. Not a good look for a team that's supposed to be a title contender. Not a good look. Bad look. Very bad look. Sixers lose 106-99, by the way, if you care. Joel Embiid, 28 points. James Harden, 26. Was really looking forward to that game last night. Was on the edge of my seat throughout that game last night. Couldn't believe that I was on the edge of my seat. Couldn't believe that I was looking at George Yang and be like, oh, if he gets that ball, maybe they're able to come back on the Blake Griffin-led Celtics. Wasn't the case. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Super Bowl week. We'll get back to the NBA news in a second with Kevin Durant being traded to the Suns and all that, but it is Super Bowl week here in Philadelphia. And one of the reasons I was looking forward so much to the game last night was that something was actually happening. It wasn't talk. It wasn't weird questions. It wasn't a media night. It was actually, how good is the team I want to see win? And I sat on the edge of my seat, really looking forward to taking a bite out of that appetizer. And it ended up being horribly disappointing. And something of substance was really happening. An actual game. Boy, was that disappointing. So then we get back to football. We get back to the Eagles. And you listen to what Jalen Hurts had to say yesterday. You listen to Hassan Reddick talking about how great a team he plays for. And although he's having a great season, he had that great season because of the depth on this team and how football is the ultimate team sport. It was great stuff you were listening to from Hassan Reddick yesterday. But then you listen to Jalen Hurts. And if you listen to the press conference yesterday, you know that they were getting questions from all over the world. There was questions from Germany. There was questions from Paris, France. There was questions from Australia. The BBC had questions for him yesterday. It was another wild day. It was like another media night in the NFL. But I want to start it with Jalen Hurts because I thought this was a beautiful thing. He was asked some of the common things like, what are you going to do if you win? Have you allowed yourself to be caught up in the moment for at least a second just to really cherish the fact that you're here at the Super Bowl? It might be difficult for someone who is so young like Jalen Hurts to really appreciate it because you got to be thinking, I'm going to get back here. I'm going to get back here. No matter what happened, I'm going to get back. It's got to be difficult for a guy like him who likes staying laser focused on the task at hand and not overall the meaning of something. But he did say he did allow himself to appreciate it, so that's great. But he got asked a question, and this is something that I think is really interesting because it allowed Jalen Hurts to really let you inside for a second. And usually he's a very guarded guy. But Jalen Hurts, as we all know, going into this season, the last time he was in the same system for 2 consecutive years was high school when his dad was the coach. It's the last time he was able to have back-to-back seasons in the same system. High school with his father as the coach. So Jalen Hurts gets asked the question yesterday about his father. And we don't really hear Jalen talk too much about his dad. We hear him talk about his mom, his grandmom. We hear him talk about his team of female professionals that are there to help him with his career, whether it's his agent, publicist, public relations, whatever it might be. We always hear him talk about the women in his life. And very rarely do we get to hear. We just found out the guy's got a girlfriend. And I know a lot of ladies in the Delaware Valley, they're heartbroken over that. But we rarely get to hear him talk about his dad. And if you have a great relationship with your father, you'll love what Jalen Hurts had to say about it. Here's Jalen Hurts talking about what his father means to him.
He's my hero. I always talk about, my childhood experiences, and I feel like that's what makes me who I am, leaning on those things and leaning on my time with him. I feel like I'm a direct reflection of him and a spitting image of him in so many ways, and I love him and I respect him for how tough he was on me, how honest he was with me, and the man that he raised, so I don't think there is obviously there isn't a Jalen Hurts with my dad, but I'm not the man I am. I'm not the man I am on the field, off the field. The quarterback I am, the leader I am. I'm none of that without him.
Okay, I appreciate the biology lesson. Yes, we all know how that works. So good stuff there, Jalen. But that's a beautiful thing. Listen to that. That's awesome. I remember Tom Brady almost broke down on a media night. Like, almost started crying. Did start crying. His eyes were welling up when somebody asked him, you're a lot of people's hero, Tom. Who's your hero? And he was like, my dad. And you listen to Jalen Hurts talk about it in the same context, the same light. It's a beautiful thing. It's an amazing thing. And I loved hearing it because we don't really hear that side of Jalen Hurts talking about his father like that. I thought that was great. And I think every father listening to that is like, one day, hopefully I get that kind of respect and love from my son. And Lord knows, for the record, I do love my father like that. Nick Sirianni also addressed the media yesterday. And it continues to be focus is the theme of a week like this when you're getting all sorts of crazy questions, again, from Paris, from Germany, from Australia, whatever it might be. From Mexico City, there was a report in there from Mexico City yesterday. It's going to be easy for some to lose focus, but Nick Sirianni says not happening with his squad. They continue to be locked in.
We understand that there is a lot of distractions. There's a lot of things that aren't a part of our typical week. So we have to do our best to make sure that our routine stays the same in the midst of the madness, right? And so our guys understand that. That's been our message all week. Our guys, we've had a lot of guys on this team that have been to the top of the mountain, have won the Super Bowl, have been to national championship games, have won national championship games. And so they understand that. And so, again, that's my message to them. But we have great leaders that carry that message out.
You got to have the leaders make sure that message is being driven home each and every day that they're out there. Now, one of the saving graces there was that this team actually was able to have practice yesterday. So you're actually able to have some football amongst all the media coverage for the Super Bowl. And great practice report yesterday. Landon Dickerson was practicing. You still had Lane Johnson as a limited participant. You still had Devontae Maddox as a limited participant. But one of the things that is not showing up on there, and that's a good thing that it's not showing up on there, is Jalen Hurts' status. I don't know if you guys caught it. I know some of you did because I saw some of you in the chat. Mike Missinelli and I did a feature last night, an hour-long feature for the JK Media YouTube channel at 6abc.com where we talked about Jalen Hurts' health status. And Mike made an interesting point that you can only really go by what you saw most recently. No media coverage, no press conference is going to carry it out. And they didn't get into it yesterday with Jalen Hurts and the status of his arm and the status of his shoulder. But if you're going by what you saw most recently, as I talked about earlier in the week, Jalen Hurts is coming off probably his worst game of the season. And you never want to see that going into the Super Bowl. Now, you could find comfort in that. You could. Jalen Hurts didn't play well. They scored 31 points. That's comforting. And they scored 31 points against the best defense in the NFL. That's a comforting thing. But to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, regardless of how great the Eagles defense has been all season, you want to feel great that Jalen Hurts is at, if not 100%, 90, 95% going into this game. Can I get 85? Maybe 80. I'll drop it. 85%. You want to at least know that he's at that point. And I think he's at least at 85. So that makes me feel good. But watching him play in that last game still does not give me the warm and fuzzies. Now, I very much doubt that he's going to play like that in back-to-back weeks. And again, they scored 31 points without him being 100%. If you're going off that, though, that's not the way you want to see your quarterback playing going into the Super Bowl. The good thing, though, is if he's had a bad game, whether that been against the Arizona Cardinals, and when I say bad game, meaning far from his best. All right, so maybe not even bad, just not his best. When we've seen him play against the Cardinals, when we've seen him play against the Colts, when we saw him play most recently against San Francisco 49ers, you want to know that he's not going to do that in consecutive weeks. He's going to have a bounce-back week. And they've been able to do that as the season has gone on. So that makes you feel warm and fuzzy going into this Super Bowl. But how healthy is Jalen Hurts at this point? Coming off of San Fran, you don't feel great. But you do feel confident that they'll have a bounce-back game. When I think about ways the Eagles can lose this game, because I'm confident that they'll win this game. But when I try to do my own reality check, I go over ways the Eagles could possibly lose this game. To me, there's a couple. One is the obvious, it's turnovers. You can't protect the football. You can't hold on to the football. You get into the red zone, you turn the ball over. You eliminate opportunities. You take at least 3 points off the board. when you fumble in the red zone, when you lose the football, throw interceptions, whatever it might be. That's the obvious way that comes out what they lose, how they could lose this game. The other is Jalen Hurts isn't healthy, and they're not able to move the ball as well as they have moved the ball all season long. Those are the two top ways I see the Eagles losing this game. The other is just that Patrick Mahomes is too much for Jonathan Gannon in this defense. When we talk about ways you could counteract that, when I come back to the optimistic side, the side that I'm actually on because I do have the Eagles winning this game for the record, when I come back to that side of it, when I come back to the side that I actually believe is going to happen, I come to the idea that you have to throw in the face of the Chiefs what a lot of teams threw in your face throughout the season, which is trying to keep the football away from a dominant offense. You don't want Jalen Hurts with the ball in his hands for extended periods of time. The Giants found that out the hard way. The 49ers found that out the hard way. When you came out and gave the ball to the Eagles first, long sustained drives to open up the game, and it set the tone for the rest of the game. I think if the Chiefs win the toss, I think it's a really bad idea to give the ball to the Eagles first. I hope they do it. The Giants found out the hard way. The Niners found out the hard way. This Eagles team, I've talked about their focus all year as the thing that overall is what I think is overall what the Eagles have used to be so damn good this year, is staying laser focused throughout. After that, it's just their ability to extend drives. I mean, think about this. This is a 4-down team. Almost nobody goes for it more in the NFL than Nick Sirianni. And we've said that for a lot here in Philadelphia. So maybe that's not just Doug Peterson or Nick Sirianni. That's not only the analytics department, but it's also the fact that your quarterback can squat. What is it? Is it 600 pounds? Is it 800 pounds? What the hell is it? Whatever it is, it's a hell of a lot more than me. So with Jalen Hurts out there on 4th and short, 3rd and short, you're getting the first down to the point where Jason Kelce takes to the line of scrimmage, literally saying, you know what's coming. Good luck to you. And they get the first down. So you have to stop that somehow as a Kansas City Chiefs team. And here's another thing that Mike pointed out last night. Mike Misnelli. I didn't see this stat. This is incredible. But you have the number one passing team in the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the number one pass defense in the NFL. When this happens, this is wild. The defense beats that offense by 31 points on average. I'm sorry, what? That's bonkers. So if you want to talk about, if you want to be a pee-wee coach, if you want to be a high school coach, some college coaches, defense wins championships, I'm sure you have that stat memorized. You have that stat right out there in front. That's pretty incredible. So James Bradbury, Darius Slay, this entire defensive line, CD Deuce looking out for Jason Kelce. Travis Kelce. Reed Blankenship coming down into the box. All those guys. Avonte Maddox as well. History says you guys are going to eat in this game. And I think you're going to be, your bellies will be full. So that's a great feather in the cap of the Eagles. At the same note, one of the things that the Kansas City Chiefs thrive on is the big play, is being able to get that big play, whether that's to Pancaro, whoever it might be, Pacheco, whatever, whether it's the big play to him, Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming back, Travis Kelce, obviously, they thrive on the big play. The Eagles do not allow big plays. The number one philosophy of Jonathan Gannon is not allowing the big play. That is the number one goal. Don't allow the big play and let your guys win their one-on-one battles. So whether you're sending 4, whether you're sending 5, oh, wow. Be so liberal with your blitzes. Whatever it might be, history dictates that the Eagles, when it comes to their great pass defense, will trump the great pass offense of the Kansas City Chiefs. So I see them getting after it in this game. And if I'm going to say the number one reason I'm confident the Eagles will win is because the biggest gap between these teams is on the defensive side of the football. with how well the Eagles play defensively in the pass game, how well they can play in the run game, how they can get after the quarterback the way they have, really up and down that defensive line. Like I pointed out earlier, Hassan Reddick talking about what a great team game this is and what a great team they have defensively, what a great defensive line they have as a whole. They got versatility. It's not just Chris Jones. Hey, go beat your man. Go beat your double team, whatever it might be. It's everyone. It's the whole team. Defensive side of the football that can get after the quarterback. And that to me is what is going to separate this team, this Eagles team from the Kansas City Chiefs. Most profoundly in this game. And that's what I look forward to. That's where I'm at right now. Checks notes. Yep, that's where I'm at. All right. Before I go any further. Oh, no, come on. I got to get this in before I get to the chat check and everything else. Listen to this. I don't know if you guys are superstitious people. I'm not. The 2008 Phillies killed any superstition I ever had. Because the Phillies, like, I don't have my lucky socks. Phillies still won. I didn't have my lucky jerseys. Phillies still won. Whatever it was, I forget something in all the chaos, right, of 2008. 2008 was a really busy year for me. And I would forget things. So after that happened, I just threw superstition away. I just, nothing worked. I don't care. I used to, when I was very active actually playing in sports, I'd always eat chicken wings before games, just whatever it was. And I'd watch Gladiator. That seemed to help. But Nick Sirianni, I thought all the dumb questions were done with. Apparently not. Because there's a lot of different reporters that were there at his press conference yesterday asking all sorts of questions. One was the guy I mentioned from Australia. He asked a question about Jordan Mailata, as one would assume. A guy from Mexico City asked the question that I'd been talking about all week, which was, hey, Nick Sirianni, Andy Reid fired you. How does it make you feel? Like that kind of thing. And Nick Sirianni continues to be gracious, although I don't believe him. You still want to beat the guy that fired you, even a little bit. Even if you could be the classiest individual, the most forgiving individual on the planet, you still want to beat the guy that fired you. So this question I thought was interesting. He gets asked a question by a BBC reporter about superstition. I'll just leave it at that. Here's the Q&A with Nick Sirianni and the gentleman from the BBC.
BBC News from London. Hey, Coach, I wanted to know, you deal with pressure all the time, but someone like myself, if it's a big day, I will wear the same boxer shorts. I will drink coffee out of the same cup. I walk down the road in exactly the same fashion. Do you have a match day routine or something to kind of zen you?
You know, that used to be something that I really thought about a lot, to be quite honest with you. Like, I think that was something I thought about when I played and maybe the first couple of years that I coached, and I began to think, like, this is exhausting. I can't remember what I did or what I did here, and at the end of the day, my superstition is not to be superstitious. Routine is different to me than superstition. And so, like, when I say something in a staff room and someone knocks on wood or something like that, I'm like, stop that. That has nothing to do with if we're going to win or lose the game or if we're going to be successful on this play. So not to shoot down what you do, because that works for you, baby. You do what you need to do. But like, for me, that's just not what I do, because I believe in routine though. And, and that the hard work prepared us to be in the position to succeed.
Do what you do, baby. You do what you do. First off, I thought the dumb questions were done, but apparently not. I love that answer. You know what I love most about that answer is that it shows that Nick Sirianni isn't blaming any outside forces. I know this sounds crazy because some people believe in superstition, some people don't at all. I'm not really one for it. But Nick Sirianni is like, even with the knock on wood comparison, stop doing that. Like, you're really attributing or giving credit to something that doesn't really exist. That doesn't matter. Like, control what you can control. That's how you knock on wood. That's how you try to make sure that nothing comes back to bite you in the ass. You control what you can control. Routine is different than superstition. If you're doing one thing solely because you believe it's a benefit, even though that has nothing to do with the actual thing, whether that's eating a lucky meal, whether that's wearing the same boxer shorts, whether that's skipping down the sidewalk as opposed to walking, You're thinking that has impact. You're thinking that has control over an outcome. It doesn't. You know what does? Preparation, working your ass off. That's what has say, power, authority over an outcome. And I love that that's how Nick Sirianni thinks about it, because that's what you want your head coach thinking about. I remember it was Bill Parcells went and got the same pilot to fly him to the Jeff Hostetler Super Bowl as he did the Phil Simms Super Bowl with the Giants. That's a little superstitious, I'd say. I guess it worked the first time, so why not go back to it? No control over the outcome. The only control of the outcome is the actual effect on the outcome. What you're doing for preparation, what you're doing to get ready for game day. No other accountability, no other credit, no other tip of the cap, no other knock on wood needed. You control what you can control and let the best outcome play out in front of you. And I think it will for the Eagles. And I do continue to go up in my score, by the way. I started out 27-24. I'm now getting a little bit more up there. 38-31 maybe. I'm starting to inch closer to that. I see a lot of weird things being chatted about in the chat here, and we'll get to you guys in a second. Finally, from our top stories, as we try to talk about, discuss in every show, we've covered Sixers Celtics. We've covered the Super Bowl, of course. We covered Nick Sirianni's boxer shorts and Jalen Hurts' love of his father. You know what I haven't talked about? Kevin Durant. This is the exact reason I don't like Kevin Durant. And I know that there's an argument to be made for, well, isn't it great that players can go wherever they want? No, it's not. Like, here's what I don't like. Kevin Durant is in Oklahoma City. Couldn't beat the Warriors. I guess I'll go join the Warriors. They win 2 championships. He's the MVP of the finals both those years. It's pretty damn good. Forms a super team. Starts to, I don't know, wants to try something different, wants to go to Brooklyn. He goes to Brooklyn. Another super team is formed. James Harden shows up there. Kyrie Irving's there. Oh, they form another super team. Look at that. And that didn't work out. So what happens next? And I get that Kyrie Irving can be a little weird on people. I understand why that could be a thing. So they make a trade. They say, you know what, we're gonna make a little trade here, and we're gonna get James Harden out, and we're gonna bring in Ben Simmons. What do you think about that, KD? All of a sudden, it's just bad from the start. You're seeing bad things from the start. You're seeing Kyrie Irving yelling at Ben Simmons to shoot it. We can identify. That trade doesn't really look like it's working out. The whole Nets situation doesn't look like it's working out. You start to hear talk about Kevin Durant wanting a trade. It's either me or Steve Nash or the GM, and that whole thing goes down. Steve Nash ends up getting fired. Then you have Kyrie Irving last week getting traded to the Dallas Mavericks. He makes his debut last night. And then at 1:09 in the morning, Adrian Wojnarowski tweets out, the Suns are sending McCall Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, and 4 first-round picks to the Brooklyn Nets for Kevin Durant and TJ Warren. So now after OKC couldn't beat the Warriors, goes to the Warriors, has his time with the Warriors, goes to the Nets, does not work out. Now he's on to the Suns to join forces with Devin Booker and Chris Paul. Another big 3 for Kevin Durant to get involved in. I'm not a big Kevin Durant fan. I've never really been a big Kevin Durant fan. But here he is for another crack at it. If the guy's not a winner, he'll find one. And he'll link up with them and do what he can to try to help them be winners. Look, I'm going to acknowledge that he's a great basketball player. That doesn't mean I have to like him. Do I want him? Is the counter to that? Oh, what do you want to do? Sit and stew and bro? Yes, that's what I want. Well, aren't you happy that he's out of our division? Not really. Not really. I think the Sixers were still beating especially without Kyrie Irving. I think the Sixers were still beating the Nets in a playoff series as it stands right now. Things could not have worked out worse for that Brooklyn Nets team. And I'm fine with it. Because between Kyrie, between Kevin Durant, and also Ben Simmons, I don't like any of those 3 guys. I don't root for any of those 3 guys. And you know what? It did dawn on me. It did dawn on me. And I saw our friend Michael KB tweet out last night, Michael Caspi Below Man, that it's now just Ben Simmons in Brooklyn. Well, that's not necessarily true. McCall Bridges, hell of a player. McCall Bridges closer to home, so that's good. But yeah, Ben Simmons is just looking around. What happened here? Why did I get out of Philly again? And here's what I don't think he cares about winning. But it could not have worked out worse. And I couldn't help but think this last night. This is where I was going. The Blake Griffin-led Sixers, I couldn't help think about it. I know a lot of times when we talk about why Ben Simmons wouldn't improve and why he couldn't improve, we talk about guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo, for instance. We talk about just seeing Tyrese Maxey improve in the short time we've seen him here in Philly. We talk about that a lot. But what we don't talk about is how Blake Griffin, and pretty much a dunker only throughout the vast majority of his career, up until I want to say 4 years ago, has started to develop an outside shot. Blake Griffin developed it faster. I'm not just going to say this because I've given up on Ben ever developing it. Developed that game while Ben Simmons could not. And watching him go 5 for 8 last night from beyond the arc, that thought did go through my brain. And then after I wake up to the news of Kevin Durant getting traded, I thought, wow, it really is pretty much, it's just Ben Simmons. Seeing Ben Simmons probably walk off the court with knee soreness and their coach roll their eyes was probably the nail in the coffin of Kevin Durant's time there in Brooklyn. And also Kyrie Irving getting out. There was nothing left there for KD. On to the next team for Kevin Durant. Boom, boom, boom. So yeah, 4 first-round picks. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Now the Suns' first-round picks are not going to be that great, obviously, because they're going to be pretty good. Still, nonetheless, it's draft capital. Draft capital. Let me tell you right now about my friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. Ladies and gentlemen, do what I do. When it comes to your fine jewelry purchases, go to Steven Singer Jewelers, where you get the perfect price each and every time. No need to be nervous. No reason to be scared. Oh, am I going to get taken advantage of here? How do I haggle? How do I negotiate? Whatever it might be. Steven Singer Jewelers promises the perfect price. And Valentine's Day is next week, fellas. Gold dip roses at Steven Singer Jewelers. We're home with the perfect price. One place, one price, the perfect price. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Let me tell you about the great people at Freestone Farm CBD, FreestoneFarmCBD.com. If you like CBD, if you use CBD, if you want to try a different CBD or you want to try CBD, the way to start out, Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. You'll love their tropical tasting Bayox that clocks into their chart-topping 24.1%, and Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. So enjoy Freestone Farm CBD, where you get 20% off and free shipping with promo code Farzy. That's 20% off with promo code Farzy. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsNation.com. Let's get into the chat check and see how you wonderful people are doing on this fine Thursday morning. Tomorrow, NBA trade deadline for the Sixers, by the way, for the NBA, 3 o'clock today, for those that didn't know. But yeah, tomorrow is the Football Friday Super Bowl edition. Can't wait for that. Sean Gillespie, good morning. Dan Schwartz, what's going on? PJ declined that, Jeff. What? Boop. Jeff, what's up? How is it possible the best deal for Durant was McCall Bridges and role players and 4 first-round picks? Phoenix is, if healthy for the playoffs, is the best team in the West easily. Yep. And I don't know. I thought the same thing. I mean, 3 first-round picks is crazy. 4 first-round picks is excessive. Excessive. And also a pick swap involved in that as well. I guess that's the top price anybody could give. And also on the list of places that Kevin Durant would go. So that's the other curveball thrown into it. Dan Schwartz, so much news about the Super Bowl. I didn't even realize today was the NBA trade deadline. I didn't even hear about the accident. Hear about the accident? What did I miss? Oh, to ESPN reporter. Oh, I didn't even see that either. Murphy Brown. What's up, Murphy Brown? Fired Doc. Yeah, I knew that was going to come today. Imagine being a Nets fan. Damn, Ben Simmons is their number one guy. I think McCall Bridges is now their number one guy, in all honesty. Sean, how you doing? Murphy Brown, start Thibault. Start Maxey before you completely lose him. I've been saying that, Murphy, and I know I'm not alone in that. I love starting your best five. Maxey's your best five. Start Maxey. Can we do that? Because that'd be great. So much news about the Super Bowl. Sorry, we read that already. Murphy Brown, start Maxey. Duck Rivers making adjustments. That was me reading the crying, laughing emojis from Sean. Blake been holding that since the Lob City Conference Finals loss. Probably, PJ. It's not ideal. Ideal situation, Sean, but works for the Sixers. Dan Schwartz, I hope they wouldn't take the Celtics lightly, regardless of the roster. Seeding still matters a tiny bit. Dan, you're right. If they didn't take the Celtics lightly, they definitely took Blake Griffin lightly from beyond the arc. Dan Schwartz, Mark and Mike, that's awesome in the Italian duo. Yeah, that came up. Mike asked the question. Mike is Sicilian by heritage. I'm Calabrese by heritage. They are separated by the Messina Strait, which I don't know how long there's a mile, not even. But basically, Calabria is the foot of the boot, and then Sicily, as I tell my Sicilian friends, is getting kicked in the ass by Calabria. But yeah, we did the show last night together, and it came up because Mike was referencing Nick Sirianni holding a grudge because Italians hold grudges. And I'm not going to say he's wrong because the word vendetta was popularized for a reason. With Nick Sirianni wanting vengeance on Andy Reid. And I still believe it. Jalen had double what? Oh, at least Jalen had double time to heal. Yes, that is a very positive thing. Sean Gillespie was 600 pounds that he could squat. That is Jalen Hurts could squat 600 pounds. Random Anton is more concerned about Jonathan Gannon versus Patrick Mahomes. I could see why, but this is the exact type of offense that Jonathan Gannon thinks he's facing every week. That's the funny thing. Jonathan Gannon is always thinking that he is going to get beat deep. He is going to allow the big play. For Jonathan Gannon, play doesn't really start till the red zone, which is just crazy to think. But there's another word for that, and that's bend but don't break. Jim Johnson lived by that, but Jim Johnson blitzed the hell out of quarterbacks. I've told you guys a story many times about doing a show with Hollis Thomas, and he goes, here's what you need to do. And he wrote on a napkin what you need to do. And he showed me the napkin, and I say there was 11 arrows pointed at a circle. He says, no, there was only 9. I remember 11. At least that's what it looked like. But Jonathan Gannon does not play that tight. He is more strict along the lines of bend but don't break and let your pass rushers win their battle, meaning your 4 down linemen, for instance, and then maybe you're another edge rusher thrown in there like Hassan Reddick. April, good morning, April. Dan Schwartz, well, I mean, 6 weeks as opposed to Mahomes 3 weeks. Oh, the injury, yes. Remember American Gladiators? What? You know, I was talking about Gladiator, the movie with Russell Crowe. I wasn't talking about American Gladiators. I do remember American Gladiators. The Tower of Power. And Siren. Remember Siren, the built blonde lady that was deaf? Remember Siren? She was cool. I loved American Gladiators, as a matter of fact. I would play American Gladiators. Me and my buddies, we had our Nerf guns, and we'd set up the obstacle course. Right? I remember they sold American Gladiators joust sticks, right? And they sold those, and they were the flimsiest, crappiest things. Like, I wanted to whale my in the face, and my friends wanted to do the same to me. And yes, we were friends. And then they came out, and I remember my one buddy got them, and then we were hitting each other. I was like, we might as well be using Q-tips. This is ridiculous. But man, I loved American Gladiators. It was a fine program. They tried to bring it back, I think, with Hulk Hogan. Didn't work. Oh my goodness. I believe Larry Zonka was one of the commentators, if I'm not mistaken. American Gladiators, great show, great program. Will they survive the gauntlet? And then they have the kids' version of it, Guts. Will you get up the aggro? Was it the aggro crag? Was the aggro crag Guts? Yes, it was. I'm going to go Mo. Mike O'Malley. Mo. Who didn't have a crush on Mo? Huh? Who didn't have a crush on Mo? That's what I thought. Everyone had a crush on Mo. Saw your video yesterday. Mason Plumlee. What? I have not seen the video of Mason Plumlee. Oh, he's better than Ben Simmons, PJ? I don't disagree with that. Ben Simmons or the field? I'll take the field. Brooklyn has a squad. Brooklyn will make more trades today, probably. Oh, my holy king. Siakam and OG. Oh, OG coming to the Brooklyn Nets. Please don't. Deadline is 3 p.m. We have time. Yes, we do. April. Grudges? No, of course we don't. Two things that never forget. An elephant and an Italian. 12 noon on Saturday's American Gladiators. My holy king. Double Dare. Legends of the Hidden Temple. What was Legends of the Hidden Legends of the Hidden Temple? They had their own thing at the end. They didn't have the aggro crag, right? That was Guts, if I'm not mistaken. 12 noon on Saturday. That's right. Double Dare. I have met Mark Summers. Mark Summers, we both spelled our name with a C, and we both. I think he's still going through it. I think OCD. I went through OCD. That's what we have in common. Oh, and apparently we both love Double Dare. Dutch. Now we're talking. What are we talking about? Oh yeah, Legends of the Hidden Temple. Phenomenal programming. Thanks everybody in the chat. You guys are great as per usual. Let's get to the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars. SkyMotorcars.com. Sixers after their embarrassing loss to the Celtics last night. The 106-99 loss to the Celtics. They now host the New York Knicks. Now, here's another reason why I thought the Sixers were going to win the game, other than the fact that the Celtics were shorthanded, and the Sixers are supposed to be a pretty damn good basketball team. They're already coming off an embarrassing loss to the Knicks. Thought they'd bounce back, a little revenge factor a couple of days later against the Celtics last night. They did not play inspired. They played a terrible basketball game. The fact that the Celtics were 53% from beyond the arc, yes, that's a factor. But where's the effort to get out there on perimeter defense? There's no effort. There's no hustle to that. There was no giddy up to that last night. Of all the nights you just play inspired basketball, last night should have been an example of that. And it was not. And also, Joel Embiid only had 2 turnovers. Not that I harp on his turnovers usually, but I just feel like it's worth pointing out. I thought they'd come back and they played really well last night, and that didn't happen. So now they're going to be back at it tomorrow night, 7 o'clock against those Knicks. We'll see how they fare in that regard. I did mention that the Sixers and the NBA have the trade deadline today at 3 o'clock. Sixers have a lot on the line here in terms of boosting their bench. It's something that they suffered from greatly. I think DeAnthony Melton was brought in here to be a bench player. I don't think that. I actually know that. And now he's being used as a starter. I don't have a lot of confidence in this team achieving the great things they should achieve with Doc Rivers as their head coach. And PJ, it's a great point. When you look at the idea that Doc Rivers and Blake Griffin were together in Los Angeles with the Clippers for so long, Blake himself also knows Doc Rivers pretty well. But speaking now about this team, the way they played last night, I think Blake Griffin was talking not just about Doc Rivers from the LA days, but I think Blake is also talking to JoJo. I think Blake is also talking to James Harden. And I think this is what the players are talking about. Like, what do you want me to do with this guy? What do you want me to do with Doc Rivers? So many times we'll hear from a coach, behind the scenes. Oh, what do you want me to do with a guy like, I don't know, whoever? What am I supposed to do with him? What are the Sixers supposed to do with Doc Rivers at this point? If you're Daryl Morey, are you very confident in this team with Doc Rivers as the head coach? I know they just went through a phenomenal stretch. They won, 9 of 11 before or after the loss to the Knicks? 2 21-point losses in a 7-day span. Losing the Knicks like that. Losing to the Celtics like this. Look, everyone says it all the time. Professional athletes should not need more motivation. They should be self-motivated. That's not how it works. I wish it was. That's not how it works. The most perfect example of that professional athletes right now is what the Phillies just went through when they went from Joe Girardi to Rob Thompson. I don't know if Dan Burke gets the job. I don't know if Sam Cassell gets the job. I don't know who. I would doubt the Sixers make a trade, make a move, a change. Let me rephrase it. The Sixers are not going to make a change this late in the season. I wish they would, because I just don't have a lot of confidence with Doc Rivers as the head coach of this basketball team. As much as I love Joel Embiid, and I love seeing Tyrese Maxey mature as a player, I think his growth is stunted right now with the fact that you're going with these 3 lineups that are just such a great idea. Whose idea was that again? Oh, it was Doc Rivers. And I don't think James Harden's happy, and I love watching James Harden, especially this year with the level that he's played at. Doc Rivers as the head coach of this team does not inspire confidence. And last night is a glaring example of that. And you guys saw the clip I played for you earlier from Blake Griffin. That's pretty damning. It's pretty damning. When the opposing player recognizes that you're not going to be making any changes, that he knows he can stand out there and go 5 for 8 from beyond the arc, yeah, it's a career night for Blake Griffin beyond the arc. Career night by far. It's pretty damning. It's pretty damning, if you ask me. We're going to have to grit our teeth and bear it, basically. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is the Farzy Show presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. One place, one price. The perfect price each and every day. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Jim Hyde, produced the program, did a wonderful job. It's a Football Friday Super Bowl edition tomorrow. Can't wait for that. Also, some more bonus me. I'll be on at 8:20 today with our friend John McMullen over on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. And then on Saturday, I'll be with my man Rob Ellis at Local 98 for the Jacob Media YouTube channel as well during an Eagles pep rally right there on Spring Garden. So I look forward to that as well. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Try to recover from that Sixers news, please, and thank you. Have a great day, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. See ya.